That voice could shatter your heart in 3 minutes flat. March 5th, 1963, the day that voice left the body of Patsy Cline but never truly died. "Don't worry if I don't come back," she had written to her mother just days before. "I've had a good life." The words float through the darkness above Tennessee like a ghost's whisper as the Piper Cherokee cuts through storm clouds that seem to swallow the world whole. Inside the cramped cabin, 30-year-old Patsy adjusts her rhinestone-studded jacket, the same one that caught spotlights like captured stars just hours earlier when she commanded the stage in Kansas City, singing for tornado victims who would never know their benefit concert had become her swan song. The stage lights fade. Now there are only clouds, and the mechanical hum of an engine that sounds increasingly fragile against the storm's fury. Patsy closes her eyes, and perhaps in those final moments before 6:20 p.m., she hears herself singing, "I fall to pieces, each time I see you again." Had she been singing about her own fate all along? The prophetic weight of those words, sung thousands of times to audiences who thought they were just heartbreak songs, now hang in the air like an accusation against destiny itself. The engine stops. The silence is absolute, eternal. In that suspended moment between flight and fall, between life and legend, Patsy Cline becomes something more than human. She becomes a voice that refuses to die, a presence that will haunt jukeboxes and broken hearts for generations to come. The rhinestones on her jacket catch no more spotlights. They will catch only moonlight filtering through Tennessee pine trees, scattered like fallen stars across a hillside near Camden. But here's what makes this tragedy unbearable. Patsy saw it coming. She told Loretta Lynn just weeks before, "If something happens to me, take care of my babies." She had dreams of falling from great heights, visions that made her wake up gasping. Friends dismissed these as the anxieties of a working mother, but what if they were something more? What if Patsy Cline spent her final months not just living but preparing, pouring every premonition, every fear, every glimpse of her approaching end into songs that would preserve her voice long after her body failed? When the news breaks across Nashville's Music Row, something unprecedented happens. Radio stations don't just play her hits, they play them like funeral hymns, like prayers for the dead. Crazy, Sweet Dreams, I Fall to Pieces. Each melody now weighted with the terrible knowledge that she had been singing her own eulogy. Fans gather outside the Grand Ole Opry, not just mourning a star, but grieving someone who had given them permission to feel their own pain, their own loneliness, their own desperate love. The question that haunts us 60 years later isn't how someone so alive could simply vanish into the darkness. The question is far more unsettling. Did Patsy Cline somehow know she was living on borrowed time? Was every performance a farewell? Every song a message in a bottle cast into the future for hearts not yet broken but destined to be? To understand how a voice could survive its owner's death, how songs could become more powerful than the woman who sang them, we must trace back to the beginning. To a poor girl in Virginia who learned early that pain could be transformed into beauty if you were brave enough to sing it out loud. The story begins not with rhinestones and spotlights, but with the harsh reality of rural Virginia in 1932. Born Virginia Patterson Hensley in a small house in Winchester, Patsy enters a world where poverty isn't just circumstance, it's destiny. Her father, Samuel, is a volatile man whose fists speak louder than words. Her mother, Hilda, works multiple jobs just to keep food on the table, her own dreams long since buried under the weight of survival. The Great Depression has settled over America like a funeral shroud, and the Hensley household feels every thread of that darkness. Young Virginia shows early signs of the fierce independence that will later define her career. While other children play with dolls, she's teaching herself piano on a broken-down upright that sounds more like a percussion instrument than a melodic one. Her voice, even at 8 years old, carries an unusual depth. Not the sweet chirping of childhood, but something rawer, more honest. When she sings along to the radio, neighbors stop their conversations to listen. There's something unsettling about hearing such mature emotion from someone so young. Could their early childhood experiences have laid the foundation for later triumphs or tragedies? The violence at home escalates. Samuel's drinking turns him into a different man entirely, and 14-year-old Virginia often finds herself standing between her father's rage and her younger siblings' terror. These moments of protective fury will later manifest in the way she defends fellow musicians, the way she refuses to let anyone diminish her worth in Nashville's male-dominated industry. Pain, she learns early, can be transformed into power, but only if you're strong enough to channel it. When Samuel finally abandons the family, 16-year-old Virginia doesn't mourn his departure. She celebrates it. Now she can focus on the one thing that makes sense in her chaotic world: music. She starts performing in local clubs, her voice cutting through cigarette smoke and the chatter of drunk men like a knife through velvet. The money helps feed the family, but more importantly, these performances teach her something crucial. She has the power to make people stop, listen, and feel. On stage, she's not Virginia Hensley, the poor girl from Winchester. She's someone else entirely, someone who commands respect. The transformation begins with a name change. Virginia becomes Patsy, a moniker that sounds both approachable and fierce. At 18, she marries Gerald Cline, partly for love, partly for stability, partly for the name that will eventually become legendary. But marriage can't contain the restless energy burning inside her. While other young wives settle into domestic routines, Patsy continues performing, continues dreaming of something bigger than Winchester, Virginia. She knows there's a wider world out there, and she's determined to conquer it. The road to Nashville is paved with rejection slips and broken promises. Patsy drives from town to town in a beat-up car that breaks down more often than it runs, sleeping in the back seat when she can't afford motels. She performs in honky-tonks where the audience is more interested in drinking than listening, where being a woman means fighting twice as hard for half the respect. But every small victory, a standing ovation in a dive bar, a radio DJ who requests her demo, feeds the fire burning inside her. Her first real break comes through sheer persistence and undeniable talent. After years of rejection, she finally catches the attention of Bill McCall at 4-Star Records. The contract is terrible. She'll make almost nothing from record sales, but it's a foot in the door of the music industry. Her first single, A Church, a Courtroom, Then Goodbye, barely makes a ripple on the charts. Critics dismiss it as just another female country singer trying to sound like someone she's not. But Patsy knows they're wrong. She doesn't sound like anyone else because there is no one else like her. The real breakthrough comes in 1957 with Walkin' After Midnight. The song is unlike anything country radio has heard. It's got the twang of traditional country, but the smooth sophistication of pop. When Patsy performs it on Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts, she doesn't just sing the song, she inhabits it. Her voice carries the weight of every lonely night, every broken heart, every moment of longing she's ever experienced. America falls in love instantly. The single shoots to #2 on the country charts and cracks the pop top 20. Suddenly, everyone wants to know, who is this woman with the voice that can make you cry just by hearing it? But success in the music industry comes with its own set of challenges. Record executives want to control her sound, her image, her very identity. They try to make her more pop, more palatable to mainstream audiences. Patsy fights back with the same ferocity she once used to protect her siblings from their father's rage. "I don't sound like nobody else," she declares in meetings with men twice her age. "And I never will." Was the success they achieved truly worth all the pain they endured? The late 1950s bring professional triumph and personal turmoil. Her marriage to Gerald deteriorates under the pressure of her rising career and his inability to understand her ambitions. When she meets Charlie Dick, a linotype operator with a dangerous charm and a drinking problem, she's drawn to his unpredictability. Their relationship is passionate, volatile, and ultimately destructive. They marry in 1957, but their union is marked by public arguments and private violence. Charlie's jealousy of her success manifests in increasingly erratic behavior. Yet Patsy stays, perhaps recognizing in him the same broken family dynamics that shaped her own childhood. Meanwhile, her career continues its ascent. She signs with Decca Records and begins working with producer Owen Bradley, a partnership that will define the Nashville sound of the 1960s. Bradley understands that Patsy's voice is an instrument unto itself, powerful enough to carry the weight of an orchestra, nuanced enough to make every word matter. Together they craft a sound that bridges country and pop without compromising either genre's integrity. The move to Nashville brings new challenges and unexpected friendships. The music industry remains a boys' club where women are expected to be sweet, submissive, and grateful for any attention they receive. Patsy refuses to play by these rules. She speaks her mind, demands fair treatment, and isn't afraid to tell powerful men exactly what she thinks of their double standards. This attitude earns her respect from fellow musicians but makes enemies among industry executives who prefer their female artists more compliant. It's during this period that she meets and mentors Loretta Lynn, a young singer from Kentucky who reminds Patsy of her younger self. Their friendship becomes legendary in country music circles. Two strong women supporting each other in an industry designed to pit them against each other. Patsy takes Loretta under her wing, teaching her about the music business, about surviving in Nashville, about never compromising your artistic vision for temporary success. The early 1960s marked the absolute peak of Patsy's artistic and commercial success. In 1961, she records what will become her signature song, Crazy, written by an unknown songwriter named Willie Nelson. Initially, Patsy isn't sure about the song. It's different from her usual material, more jazzy, more sophisticated. But when she steps into the recording booth and begins to sing, magic happens. Her voice transforms Willie's words into something transcendent. Crazy for feeling so lonely. Crazy for feeling so blue. Every syllable carries the weight of lived experience, of heartbreak transformed into art. The song becomes a crossover sensation, reaching number 2 on country charts and breaking into the pop top 10. More importantly, it establishes Patsy as an artist capable of making any song uniquely her own. When she performs it on television, audiences are mesmerized. Here's a woman who can stand perfectly still and yet convey more emotion than most performers manage with elaborate choreography. Her voice doesn't just deliver the lyrics, it inhabits them, makes them feel like confessions from her own diary. This period also brings I Fall to Pieces and Sweet Dreams, songs that complete the trinity of her greatest hits. Each track showcases a different aspect of her vocal abilities. The vulnerability of I Fall to Pieces, the sultry confidence of Crazy, the wistful melancholy of Sweet Dreams. Radio programmers struggle to categorize her music. Is it country, pop, something entirely new? Patsy doesn't care about labels. She's created something that transcends genre boundaries. Music that speaks directly to the human heart. Behind all that glamour, was there an unbearable loneliness that nobody saw? Despite her professional success, Patsy's personal life remains turbulent. Her marriage to Charlie Dick continues its destructive cycle of passion and violence. Friends notice bruises she tries to hide with makeup. See how she flinches when he raises his voice. Yet she stays, perhaps believing that love should hurt. that anything worth having requires sacrifice. Her children, Julie and Randy, become her anchors to sanity, the innocent lives she's determined to protect from the chaos surrounding them. The pressure of stardom also takes its toll. Patsy begins experiencing severe headaches, dizzy spells, and moments of disorientation that terrify her. Doctors can find no physical cause, leading some to speculate that the stress of maintaining her career while dealing with personal problems is manifesting in physical symptoms. She starts having vivid dreams about death, about falling from great heights, about leaving her children behind. Friends dismiss these as the anxieties of a working mother, but Patsy can't shake the feeling that something terrible is approaching. Her generosity becomes legendary during this period. Despite her own struggles, she regularly sends money to family members, helps struggling musicians get their start, and performs countless charity concerts. When tornado victims in Kansas need help, Patsy doesn't hesitate to volunteer for a benefit show, even though it means flying in dangerous weather conditions. This impulse to help others, even at personal cost, defines who she is at her core. Not just a great artist, but a deeply compassionate human being. Then comes March 3, 1962, the night that changes everything. Patsy is involved in a serious automobile accident that leaves her critically injured. For weeks, she hovers between life and death, her face severely damaged, her career seemingly over. The accident forces her to confront her mortality in a way she never has before. During her long recovery, she has time to think about what truly matters, about the price she's paid for fame, about the dreams she still wants to fulfill. When she returns to performing months later, something has shifted. Her voice carries even more emotional weight, as if the near-death experience has stripped away any remaining pretense or artificiality. She performs with her head partially bandaged, turning what could have been a liability into a powerful visual symbol of resilience. Audiences respond with unprecedented warmth, recognizing in her visible scars the invisible wounds they all carry. Did this tragic event mark their downfall, or was it simply the tipping point of deeper problems? The accident seems to accelerate rather than create the darkness that has always lurked beneath Patsy's public persona. Her relationship with Charlie becomes even more volatile. The headaches intensify. The dreams about death become more frequent and more vivid. Yet professionally, she reaches new heights. Her performances take on an urgency, as if she knows time is running short and wants to pour everything she has into every song. She begins talking more openly about death, about premonitions, about feeling like she's living on borrowed time. Friends try to dismiss these comments as attention-seeking or depression, but there's something in her voice when she speaks of these things that suggests deeper knowledge. "I've got a feeling I won't be around much longer," she tells Loretta Lynn during one of their last conversations. "If something happens to me, take care of my babies." The psychological transformation following her accident is profound and complex. Patsy, who has always been the strong one, the protector, the woman who refuses to show weakness, suddenly finds herself vulnerable in ways she's never experienced. The physical scars will heal, but the emotional impact runs much deeper. She becomes more introspective, more philosophical about her place in the world. The woman who once seemed invincible now understands how fragile life truly is. This newfound awareness of mortality influences everything: her music, her relationships, her priorities. She starts writing letters to her children, hoping they'll remember her not just as a famous mother, but as someone who loved them more than life itself. She becomes more protective of her artistic legacy, working with increased intensity to create music that will endure beyond her physical presence. There's an urgency to everything she does now, as if she's racing against an invisible clock. The relationship with Charlie reaches its breaking point during this period. The violence escalates and friends begin urging her to leave him. But Patsy seems paralyzed by some combination of fear, loyalty, and perhaps the deeply ingrained belief that she doesn't deserve better treatment. Her self-worth, despite all her professional success, remains tied to the traumatic patterns established in her childhood home. She's recreated the chaos she grew up with, unable to recognize that she has the power to break the cycle. Yet there are also moments of profound grace during this period. Her friendships deepen, particularly with Loretta Lynn and Dottie West, fellow female performers who understand the unique challenges of being a woman in Nashville. These relationships provide the emotional support she can't find at home, creating a chosen family bound by shared experience and mutual respect. When she's with these women, the mask of toughness slips away, revealing the vulnerable, funny, deeply caring person beneath the public persona. Her performances during this time take on an almost spiritual quality. Audiences sense they're witnessing something special, something that transcends mere entertainment. When she sings Crazy now, it's not just a song. It's a prayer, a confession, a summation of everything she's learned about love, loss, and survival. The vulnerability she shows on stage paradoxically makes her seem stronger, more authentic, more deserving of the adoration she receives. Can anyone ever truly escape from the shadow of their darkest moments? For Patsy, the answer seems to be both yes and no. Professionally, she transcends every obstacle, every setback, every moment of doubt. Personally, she remains trapped by patterns and beliefs that no amount of success can overcome. This duality, the triumphant artist and the struggling woman, becomes the defining characteristic of her final years. The last phase of Patsy Cline's life unfolds like a Greek tragedy, inevitable, heartbreaking, and somehow beautiful in its very inevitability. By 1963, she has achieved everything she dreamed of as a young girl singing in Winchester honky-tonks. She's a household name, a crossover success, a pioneer who has opened doors for countless women who will follow. Yet the woman who has given so much to music seems to be slowly disappearing, consumed by the very success she fought so hard to achieve. Her final recordings capture an artist at the absolute peak of her powers. Leavin' on Your Mind, recorded just months before her death, showcases a voice that has gained even more depth and nuance through suffering. Every note she sings carries the weight of lived experience, of love found and lost, of dreams achieved at tremendous personal cost. There's a maturity in her performances now that goes beyond technical skill. She has become an interpreter of human emotion in its purest form. The touring schedule becomes increasingly grueling. Patsy performs multiple shows per week, traveling constantly, living out of suitcases and hotel rooms. The demands of success leave little time for the quiet moments she craves with her children. Julie and Randy see their mother as a figure who appears and disappears like a beautiful ghost, bringing gifts and excitement, but never staying long enough to provide the stability children need. This absence tears at Patsy's heart, creating yet another layer of guilt and sorrow in her already complex emotional landscape. Her marriage to Charlie continues its destructive trajectory, marked by increasingly public scenes and private violence. Industry insiders whisper about the bruises, the missed performances due to illness, the way Patsy sometimes flinches when touched unexpectedly. Yet she maintains the facade of a strong, independent woman who has everything under control. This constant performance, on stage and off, requires enormous energy she's beginning to run short of. The premonitions intensify during these final months. Patsy begins having detailed dreams about plane crashes, about falling from the sky, about leaving her children motherless. She shares these visions with close friends who try to reassure her but can't shake their own growing unease. There's something in the way she talks about death now, not with fear but with a strange acceptance, as if she's already begun the process of letting go. In her last interview recorded just weeks before the fatal flight, Patsy speaks with unusual candor about her life and career. "I've lived a life full of heartache," she says, "but my music is where I heal. If I could do it all over again, I'd probably make the same mistakes because those mistakes gave me the material for my songs." There's a weariness in her voice that goes beyond physical exhaustion. The weariness of someone who has seen too much, felt too much, given too much of herself to the world. Were these final decisions acts of surrender, or courageous acts of self-preservation? Looking back, it's possible to see Patsy's final months as both. The decision to continue touring despite her premonitions, to keep pushing her voice and her body beyond reasonable limits, to maintain the exhausting performance of public strength while privately falling apart. These choices can be seen as either self-destructive or heroically determined. Perhaps they were both. Her last performance on March 3, 1963 at the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hall in Kansas City is described by those who witnessed it as transcendent. Patsy takes the stage wearing her rhinestone jacket, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. But there's something different about her energy that night. She performs with an intensity that borders on desperate, as if she knows this might be her final opportunity to share her gift with the world. The concert is a benefit for the family of DJ Cactus Jack Call, who died in a car accident. The irony is not lost on those who know Patsy's own premonitions about death. As she sings Crazy for what will be the last time, there are tears in her eyes. The audience responds with a standing ovation that lasts several minutes, as if they too sense they're witnessing something special, something final. After the show, other performers offer to drive back to Nashville, citing dangerous weather conditions. A winter storm is moving through the region, bringing fog, ice, and near-zero visibility. Commercial flights have been canceled, but Patsy, exhausted from touring and eager to get home to her children, chooses to fly with Hawkshaw Hawkins, Cowboy Copas, and pilot Randy Hughes in a small private aircraft. "Don't worry about me," she tells Dottie West at the airport. "If it's my time, it's my time." The death of Patsy Cline on March 5, 1963 sends shockwaves through the music world and beyond. The plane crash that claims her life, along with those of Hawkshaw Hawkins and Cowboy Copas, is front-page news across America. Radio stations cancel their regular programming to play marathon tributes to the fallen stars. The Grand Ole Opry observes a moment of silence that seems to stretch into eternity, as if the very building is mourning the loss of one of its brightest stars. The funeral, held at the Phillips Robinson Funeral Home in Nashville, draws thousands of mourners. Country music royalty mixes with ordinary fans who feel they've lost someone deeply personal. Loretta Lynn, devastated by the loss of her mentor and best friend, can barely speak. The service features performances of Patsy's greatest hits, but even the most skilled musicians struggle to capture the unique magic she brought to these songs. Without her voice animating them, the melodies seem hollow, incomplete. In the days following her death, conspiracy theories begin to emerge. Some question whether the crash was truly accidental. Patsy had been receiving death threats from jealous spouses and obsessed fans. Her success had made enemies in Nashville's old boy network. Could someone have tampered with the aircraft? Was the weather report accurate? Or had someone provided false information to encourage a dangerous flight? These theories persist for decades, fueled by the suspicious timing and the valuable careers cut short. The official investigation concludes that pilot error and weather conditions caused the crash. Randy Hughes, the pilot, was not instrument-rated for the dangerous conditions they encountered. The plane likely flew into a hillside while trying to navigate through heavy fog. But for those who loved Patsy, the official explanation feels insufficient. How could someone so vibrant, so seemingly indestructible, simply vanish into the Tennessee darkness? The randomness of it, the cruel timing just as her career reached its peak, seems almost cosmically unfair. Her children, Julie and Randy, are left to grow up with memories of a mother who was both everywhere and nowhere. A voice on the radio, a figure in photographs, a legend who happened to be related to them. Charlie Dick, despite his abusive behavior during their marriage, becomes a devoted guardian of Patsy's legacy, ensuring her music continues to reach new generations. Whether motivated by guilt, love, or simple recognition of her talent, he works tirelessly to preserve her memory. The immediate impact on country music is profound. Female performers who had looked to Patsy as a pioneer and protector suddenly find themselves without their strongest advocate. The vulnerability her death exposes, the way the industry discards its artists, the dangers of constant touring, the pressure that drives performers to take unnecessary risks, leads to some long overdue conversations about artist safety and support. But it's the enduring influence of her music that truly defines Patsy's legacy. In the decades following her death, Crazy is covered by artists ranging from Linda Ronstadt to K.D. Long, each finding something new in Willie Nelson's words and Patsy's interpretation. The song appears on countless greatest of all time lists, recognized not just as a country classic but as one of the finest achievements in American popular music. Modern artists continue to cite Patsy as a primary influence. Her willingness to cross genre boundaries, to bring pop sophistication to country music without losing its emotional authenticity, creates a template that everyone from Dolly Parton to Alison Krauss follows. Her vocal style, that distinctive vibrato, the way she could make every word matter, becomes the gold standard for female country singers. The cultural impact extends beyond music into broader conversations about women's roles in entertainment and society. Patsy's refusal to be diminished, her insistence on artistic control, her mentorship of younger female performers, these aspects of her career inspire feminists and artists alike. She becomes a symbol of what's possible when talent meets determination, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Hollywood eventually takes notice, producing the biographical film Sweet Dreams in 1985, starring Jessica Lange. While the movie takes liberties with biographical facts, it captures something essential about Patsy's spirit. Her toughness, her vulnerability, her absolute commitment to her art. The film introduces her story to a new generation, ensuring her legacy continues to grow rather than fade. The Country Music Hall of Fame inducts Patsy in 1973, a belated but fitting recognition of her contributions to the genre. Her exhibit becomes one of the museum's most popular, featuring the rhinestone jacket she wore on her final performance, handwritten letters to her children, and artifacts from her brief but incandescent career. Visitors often report being moved to tears by the display, struck by the gap between the public triumph and private struggle it reveals. Was their death as straightforward as reported? Or were powerful hidden forces involved? The conspiracy theories surrounding Patsy's death refuse to die, fed by the suspicious timing, the valuable careers destroyed, and the general mistrust of official explanations that characterizes much of 1960s America. Some theorists point to her connections with Nashville's music industry elite, wondering if her success had threatened someone powerful enough to orchestrate an accident. Others focus on her personal life, suggesting that Charlie Dick or another intimate enemy might have had motive and means. More credible investigators focus on the pattern of musician deaths in small aircraft during this period. The pressure to travel constantly, The use of inexperienced pilots, the prevalence of poorly maintained aircraft, and the lack of safety regulations create a perfect storm of danger. Patsy's death, viewed in this context, seems less like a targeted assassination and more like the inevitable result of an industry that prioritizes profit over artist safety. Yet questions persist. Why did experienced performers like Hawkshaw Hawkins and Cowboy Copas, who had survived decades in the music business, choose to fly in such dangerous conditions? Were they pressured by management, by financial obligations, by some other force? The decision seems uncharacteristically reckless for seasoned professionals who understood the risks involved. The most haunting aspect of these theories is how they reflect our need to find meaning in meaningless tragedy. The idea that Patsy died in a random accident, that her extraordinary life was cut short by simple bad luck, feels insufficient given her enormous talent and cultural impact. We want her death to be part of a larger story, to have meaning proportional to her artistic contributions. The conspiracy theories, however unfounded, provide that meaning by suggesting her death was significant enough to be planned. But perhaps the real conspiracy is more subtle and more pervasive, the way the music industry continues to consume its artists, demanding everything they have to give and offering little in return. Patsy's death becomes a symbol of this exploitation, a reminder that behind every beautiful song lies a human being whose suffering made that beauty possible. In this reading, her death isn't the result of a specific plot but of an entire system designed to extract maximum value from artistic souls. The legacy that emerges from this tragedy is more powerful than any individual life could have been. Patsy Cline becomes a patron saint of struggling artists, a reminder that authentic emotion can transcend any boundary or limitation. Her voice, preserved on recordings that continue to sell decades after her death, offers comfort to anyone who has ever felt heartbroken, lonely, or misunderstood. In her music, they find proof that pain can be transformed into beauty, that suffering can serve a purpose beyond itself. Today, more than 60 years after her death, Patsy Cline's influence continues to grow. New artists discover her music and find inspiration in her story. Scholars write dissertations about her contributions to American culture. Her hometown of Winchester, Virginia, maintains a museum dedicated to her memory, where visitors can see the humble beginnings that produced such extraordinary artistry. The questions that surrounded her death have evolved into larger questions about her life and meaning. What drove her to push so hard, to give so much of herself to her art? How did someone from such humble beginnings develop such sophisticated artistic instincts? What might she have accomplished if she had lived longer? These mysteries, perhaps more than any conspiracy theory, capture our continued fascination with her story. In the end, Patsy Cline's death serves as both a tragic conclusion and a powerful beginning, the end of a remarkable individual life and the birth of an enduring legend. Her voice, preserved in amber-like perfection on recordings that seem to grow more beautiful with each passing year, continues to touch hearts and change lives. She proved that authentic emotion, honestly expressed, can transcend time, genre, and circumstance. And in that transcendence, she achieved the immortality that eluded her mortal form, becoming not just a memory but a living force that continues to inspire and heal through the power of song. Was her death the end of her story, or simply the moment when her real story, the one that lives in our hearts and speakers and memories, truly began? The answer, like Patsy herself, remains beautifully, mysteriously, eternally complex.